Chapter 2305. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She really didn't know what to say. Her master was good at everything, but sometimes, when he made a mistake, it was unbearable. Wasn't it just a sentence? Was there a need to make him so nervous? However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that to Song Cheng, it was the salvation of the entire inscription city. Quick, quick, quick. Disciple, do you have any way to help me? Tell me quickly. After a long while, Song Cheng regained his senses and hurriedly grabbed Luo Qingtong and asked. His inscription talent was poor. If he wanted to win, he had to raise his inscription technique to the level of a senior inscription master. However, although Lengyu City Lord's strength wasn't as strong as Tianfeng's City Lord, it wasn't a problem for him to deal with the other 6-star regions. Song Cheng really couldn't think of any way that Luo Qingtong could help him. Even if Luo Qingtong was an immortal, she couldn't possibly turn herself from a trash into a high-level inscriptionist in such a short period of time, right? She could even be one of the best high-level inscriptionists. In fact, Song Cheng had completely underestimated Luo Qingtong. Who said that she couldn't do it? In the past, she might not have been able to do it. But now, after she recovered her strength, she used some time to sort out and improve her eye technique. It was also because of this that Luo Qingtong came a little late at the inscription plaza. Because she had activated a new eye technique. In Luo Qingtong's previous life, this eye technique was of little value to her. Of course, it wasn't completely useless. It still helped Luo Qingtong a little. When she was building her own secret power and business empire, it came in handy. But it was only a little. In that world, Luo Qingtong didn't really trust and was willing to nurture anyone. But this world was different. Luo Qingtong looked at Song Cheng and said, "Master, look into my eyes. Later, no matter what appears in your mind, don't resist it." The moment Luo Qingtong said that, Song Cheng's expression froze. Because following his gaze, he saw Luo Qingtong's bloodshot eyes. In an instant, the blood-red light in the girl's eyes began to spin rapidly. His blood-red eyes, which were originally like red jade and agate, were like blazing suns that were bursting with countless flames in this violent rotation. It was almost blinding. Shwa! A ray of light shot out from Luo Qingtong's eyes and into Song Cheng's. It was really a projection. Luo Qingtong's eyes seemed to shoot a blood-red ray of light into Song Cheng's eyes. Then, he felt a sharp pain in his eyes. A blood-red seed-like thing appeared in his eyes. Following the appearance of this blood-red seed, Song Cheng felt as if something had been implanted in his mind. He subconsciously wanted to resist. But Luo Qingtong's previous words rang in his ears. In an instant, he gritted his teeth fiercely. He believed in his disciple. This time, Luo Qingtong came to Tianfeng Inscription City specially because he asked her to help. The girl didn't need to take on this matter. But for her own sake. Just for the grace of her guidance back then, she had agreed. Chapter 2306. As Song Cheng thought about it, he immediately let go of his mind and allowed the thing that had intruded into his mind to directly implant itself into his soul. It was only when this thing entered his soul that Song Cheng realized what it was. In an instant, he sucked in a deep breath. Oh my God! He was shocked as he used his mind to look inside his mind. In his mind, a blood-red seed was spinning rapidly. Among them, profound explanations and demonstrations about the inscription patterns appeared in his mind in detail. Song Cheng looked at the blood-red seed as it spun. He only felt that the explanations and demonstrations regarding inscription patterns had completely entered his heart and soul and were deeply engraved in his mind. Song Cheng found it hard to explain this feeling. He only knew that this blood-red seed created by Luo Qingtong had opened up all his understanding of inscription patterns. Wang! As the blood-colored seed spun in the air, Song Cheng received the knowledge of inscription patterns. His heart was shocked to the extreme. This was inscription talent. Or rather, this was the inscription pattern knowledge that Luo Qingtong knew herself. But at this moment, she had imparted it to him. Song Qing only felt that he had learned it all by himself in an instant. He only regained his senses when the blood-red color in Luo Qingtong's eyes disappeared. SSSSS, Song Qing stuttered for a long time but couldn't say the word brother. What did Luo Qingtong do to him? Why did he feel that he understood inscription patterns in an instant? He understood all the inscription pattern techniques in the blood-red seed. Master. Luo Qingtong smiled and looked at him, interrupting his stuttering. You can try to control the aura of the inscription tower now. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Her face was hidden under the golden mask. Even though her appearance couldn't be seen, it was still extremely evil and unscrupulous. What she had just used on Song Cheng was the newest pupil technique that she had comprehended, sharing. Sharing all the knowledge and skills that she had comprehended. As long as she comprehended something, she could share it with the people around her. Let the other party have the same comprehension and talent as her. However, there was a time limit to this sharing. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, she could at most last for 6 hours if she shared the inscription pattern she had comprehended with Song Cheng. In other words, 6 hours. However, this should be enough for Song Cheng to challenge the tower and obtain victory. Song Cheng was both surprised and delighted. He looked at Luo Qingtong, then tried to stand up and take a step forward. Boom! When he took a step forward, the pressure from the first level of the inscription tower surged towards him. Then, in the next second, Song Cheng stood firmly. He stood still. Song Cheng almost cried tears of joy. On this floor, it was almost difficult for him to move. It was all because his inscription talent wasn't enough. Song Cheng knew this as well. However, his inscription talent was bestowed by the heavens and he had no way of changing it. Even if he had put in more effort than others, if his innate talent wasn't enough, it would seal off all his paths of improvement. However, at this moment, with the help of the blood-red seed that Luo Qingtong had implanted in his mind, Song Cheng's understanding of inscription patterns had increased. He had withstood this oppressive aura. Chapter 2307. Song Cheng almost cried tears of joy. He looked at the energy and raised his hand. In an instant, the energy entered his body. Following his movements, an inscription pattern was drawn in midair. This inscription pattern was completely unfamiliar to Song Cheng. He was sure that he had never seen this pattern before. He had never even learned it before. But at this moment, he was able to draw it so naturally and smoothly. Song Cheng was pleasantly surprised and shocked to the extreme. He didn't know what was going on. How did Luo Qingtong do this? How could she improve someone's innate talent in an instant? And Song Cheng felt that the innate talent in his body didn't belong to him. It belonged to Luo Qingtong. It belonged to his disciple. Song Cheng felt that only Luo Qingtong could draw such a monstrous innate talent and such an unheard-of inscription pattern. In addition, Luo Qingtong asked him to look into her eyes and not resist. Song Cheng immediately thought that Luo Qingtong had transferred her innate talent to him. Thinking of this, Song Cheng was shocked. The worry in his heart overshadowed the shock. He hurriedly ran to Luo Qingtong's side and hurriedly asked, "You silly girl. Is my innate talent yours now? You gave me your innate talent. Where is your innate talent? You." Before Song Cheng could finish his words, Luo Qingtong waved her hand and an inscription pattern appeared in front of him. "I'm fine, master." Luo Qingtong looked at Song Cheng's shocked reaction and smiled. The latter, on the other hand, could do nothing but stare with his mouth agape. What the f***ck? He looked at the inscription pattern that appeared beside Luo Qingtong and was shocked. What was going on? Luo Qingtong's innate talent had been transferred to him. She still had an innate talent. Then didn't she create an innate talent for him? She copied her innate talent for him? How did he do it? Song Cheng was dumbfounded. He stared blankly at Luo Qingtong. He had no idea how she did it. This was inscription talent. Since ancient times, one's innate talent was destined. Just like how geniuses were born, it was impossible to change it with human effort. A lack of talent in martial arts could be compensated with other treasures of heaven and earth and the ability of the soul seal. But with their inscription talents, how could they make up for it? This was the same as alchemy talent and array formation talent. They were all fated from birth and couldn't be changed. Song Cheng was shocked to the extreme. He pointed at Luo Qingtong and said, you, I, for a long time. Before he could say anything, a violent collision of energy suddenly came from the top floor of the inscription tower. Boom! The impact of the collision of these forces was particularly strong. Especially when Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng were surrounded by the aura of the inscription tower. This feeling was even more obvious. Oh no, it's senior brother and the others. Song Cheng's face turned solemn. He said coldly, they must have caught up with the people from Lang Yu's inscription city and fought with them. Disciple, let's go up quickly. As Song Cheng spoke, he hurriedly rushed up. Chapter 2308. On the third floor. The people from Lang Yu Inscription City were confronting the people from Tianfeng Inscription City. You want to charge up with just the people from Tianfeng Inscription City? The people from Lang Yu Inscription City sneered. As they drew inscription patterns, they smashed towards the people from Tianfeng Inscription City and mocked them. In the inscription tower, one was not allowed to fight directly. They could only use inscription patterns to attack each other. The two parties involved in the attack would use inscription patterns to determine the victor. This was the Do seal that Song Cheng and Luo Qingtong had mentioned before. Whoever produced the higher level inscription pattern would be able to win against the opponent. And the loser would naturally be expelled by the power of the inscription tower. Of course, because of the uniqueness of the Do seal, both parties who used inscription patterns would inevitably suffer some injuries. Most of these injuries came from the power of the explosion when the inscription patterns were lost. When the power of the inscription patterns exploded out, it would sometimes injure the nearby caster. Thus, it was normal to be injured in the battle of the inscription tower. Of course, there were also people who deliberately used inscription techniques to crush their opponents. They controlled it to a certain degree, not only preventing the opponent from being expelled by the inscription tower, but also causing the opponent to suffer serious injuries. Torturing the opponent like this. Right now, the people from Lang Yu Inscription City and Tianfeng Inscription City were in such a situation. The people from Lang Yu Inscription City sneered as they looked in the direction of the people from Tianfeng Inscription City. The power of the inscription patterns in their hands was just slightly stronger than the power of the people from Tianfeng Inscription City. Every time it hit their inscription patterns, the power of the explosion was like a sword that cut into the bodies of the people from Tianfeng Inscription City, causing them to bleed profusely without being expelled by the inscription tower. Haha. You people from Tianfeng Inscription City, resist. Why aren't you resisting? The people from Lang Yu Inscription City were extremely pleased. They looked at the people from Tianfeng Inscription City, their faces full of ridicule. Lang Yu Inscription City Lord and Master Chen were not among them. The two of them had already climbed up. Lang Yu City Lord also brought along a few of his trusted subordinates, who were also high-level inscription masters from Lang Yu City. The rest of the people stayed on the third floor to snipe the people from Inscription City. And most of the injuries on their bodies were caused by Lang Yu Inscription City Lord and the others. You people from Lang Yu Inscription City are shameless. An injured Sky-Wind Inscription City Senior Inscription Master scolded as he struggled to defend against the inscription patterns blasted out by the Cold Jade Inscription City. With his strength, he wouldn't have been threatened by the people of Lang Yu Inscription City. However, City Lord Lang Yu and the others had purposely waited on the third floor and purposely injured them. Then, they would let these low and mid-level inscription masters of Cold Jade Inscription City humiliate them. This Heavenly Wind Inscription City's senior inscription master was so angry that his eyes turned red. Haha. What's shameless? We're winning with our strength. That person from Cold Jade Inscription City laughed loudly. He felt proud in his heart. Don't you people from Heaven Wind Inscription City want to climb up? Didn't he want to win back the inscription tower? Climb. He laughed loudly, causing the surrounding people from Cold Jade Inscription City to burst into laughter. They had received orders from City Lord Len Yu to play with this group of people from Tianfeng Inscription City to death. Didn't they want to climb up? They wanted to block them here and let them watch in despair as the City Lord and the others won the inscription tower. It would be best if they could force their minds to collapse and kneel down to beg for mercy. Haha. The group of people from Cold Jade Inscription City attacked the people from Tianfeng Inscription City. Chapter 2309. An attack suddenly came from the back of the Len Yu Inscription City's people, which was the path from the second floor to the third floor. Bang! When the people from Len Yu Inscription City felt the attack, they immediately stopped laughing and coldly shouted towards the direction of Luo Qingtong and the others. Who is it? The person who will make you all suffer. Following Song Cheng's voice, he and Luo Qingtong instantly appeared on the stairs from the second floor to the third floor. Song Cheng's eyes were spitting fire. He looked at the arrogant people from Len Yu Inscription City in front of him and his eyes were extremely red. These bastards. After Song Cheng rushed to the second floor, he realized that there were no people from Len Yu Inscription City and Tianfeng Inscription City on the second floor. He hurriedly rushed towards the third floor. He didn't expect them to really be here. After hearing what the people from Len Yu Inscription City said, Song Cheng wished that he could kill them. The people from Len Yu Inscription City had gone too far. Not only did they want to snatch the inscription tower from Tianfeng Inscription City, they also wanted to block the people from Tianfeng Inscription City and let these people from Len Yu Inscription City who were weaker than them humiliate and crush them. Song Cheng looked at the wounds and blood on the bodies of the Tianfeng Inscription City's senior inscription masters and was about to die from anger. The inscription tower didn't allow anyone to injure others, unless the difference in strength was too great and they couldn't withstand the power of the inscription tower and died. However, the power of this kind of attack was measured by the inscription tower. Once the inscription tower determined that it was a malicious attack that caused death, the right to fight for the inscription tower would be taken away. Therefore, even if Song Cheng looked at the people from Len Yu Inscription City and wished that he could cut them into pieces, he couldn't do it in the inscription tower. When the people from Len Yu Inscription City saw him and Luo Qingtong appear, their laughter became even more savage. Yo, our Tianfeng Inscription City's trash is here. His strength is not bad. He actually broke through the second floor and came up to the third floor. Let me guess, did he crawl up? A beginner inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City looked at Song Cheng's miserable and sweaty appearance and laughed loudly. In Xiao Chen's opinion, Song Cheng had gone through a lot to reach the third floor. Now, he looked like he was putting on a brave front. However, who knew how much pressure he had suffered inside? As for Luo Qingtong beside him, there was no need to care about her at all. He had no idea where this young man had come from. He had appeared beside Song Cheng out of nowhere and stood up for him. The other party claimed to be his disciple. However, Song Cheng was such a piece of trash. Even if his disciple had some talent, what was there to care about? Moreover, Luo Qingtong didn't look old, so they didn't need to worry about her. Given the other party's age, it was impossible for him to be a hidden reinforcement from Song City. Therefore, everyone looked in the direction of Song Cheng and Luo Qingtong without fear. After loudly mocking Song Cheng, the junior inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City directly threw an inscription pattern at Song Cheng. He wanted to see Song Cheng fall to the ground in a sorry state. Song Cheng was just a piece of trash from Tianfeng Inscription City. If he didn't have a fortuitous encounter outside, he wouldn't even be an inscription master. What right did he have to shout at him? As the junior inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City thought about it, he sneered in his heart. Chapter 2310. Song Cheng rushing up was like walking right into a trap. Since he wanted to be unlucky, then they would fulfill his wish. However, just as the sneer and smugness appeared on his face, it instantly froze on his lips. How is this possible? He looked in front of him in shock. He saw Song Cheng raise his hand and draw an inscription pattern to block the inscription pattern that he blasted out. Not only that, after the inscription pattern broke his inscription pattern, it rushed towards him. This? The inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City looked in the direction that the inscription pattern was rushing towards and was dumbfounded. What was going on? That Heavenly Wind Inscription City's famous trash, Song Cheng, actually blocked the inscription pattern that he blasted out? Not only that, he even blasted the inscription pattern that he blasted out and blasted it towards him? The inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City was shocked. He couldn't believe it no matter what. He looked at the inscription pattern that was rushing towards him and suddenly raised his hand. In an instant, there was a loud bang and another inscription pattern blasted out from his hand to meet the inscription pattern that Song Cheng had blasted out. Bang! The two inscription patterns collided in midair. With a bang, under the shocked and incredulous gazes of the crowd, the inscription pattern blasted out by the inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City was instantly blasted into pieces. The inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City let out a blood-curdling scream. After that, his body was cut by the energy that blasted out from the inscription pattern. Fresh blood spurted out and the inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City fell to the ground. Looking at the inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City's fallen body, the crowd from Cold Jade Inscription City and Heavenly Wind Inscription City were all shocked. They looked at Song Cheng, who was standing at the entrance of the staircase, and their hearts were shocked to the extreme. Especially the crowd from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. They originally wanted to ask Song Cheng to leave quickly and not suffer for nothing. However, they didn't expect that Song Cheng would actually defeat the inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City with just a raise of his hand. One had to know that if this battle result was placed on anyone else, it wouldn't make them so shocked. However, the person who did this was Song Cheng. Junior apprentice brother Cheng. The people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City were both surprised and happy. As for Song Cheng, when he first made his move, he was still very nervous. However, when he saw the beginner-level inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City that was defeated by him, his heart was filled with an indescribable excitement. He really did it. The inscription talent that his disciple passed to him was actually real. Song Cheng could feel the ease with which he had just blasted out that attack. The flaws of the other party's inscription patterns were easily grasped by him. It was obvious that his inscription talent was above his opponent's. That was why he was able to see through the flaws in the other party's inscription pattern and break it with ease. Song Cheng's heart was filled with excitement. He nodded towards the group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City and said coldly, "Senior brother, all of you stand aside and let me deal with them." Song Cheng's words were filled with great confidence. As for the other people in Cold Jade Inscription City, they had also recovered from their shock. Chapter 23:11. Song Cheng, don't think that you don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have. You can be arrogant in front of us just because you have a breakthrough. With just you alone, you actually want to deal with a group of us. What a joke. The group of people from Langyu Inscription City sneered. Although they don't know how Song Cheng's inscription skills increased so much. But even so, they are not people that Song Cheng can deal with alone. The people from Langyu Inscription City thought and raised their hands. One of them said coldly, Let's beat the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City out first. Let's see what Song Cheng can do. As the group of people spoke, they immediately rushed towards the group of people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. The latter group was previously injured by Langyu Inscription City Lord and the others. Just now, they were suppressed by them for so long. Their entire body is covered in injuries and they can barely stay in the inscription tower. They are unable to fight back at all. Seeing this scene, Song Cheng's face suddenly turned cold. He said to Luo Qingtong, "Disciple, help me protect them." After waiting for Luo Qingtong's affirmative answer, he immediately rushed out. Boom! Song Cheng's hand blasted out inscription patterns one after another, rushing towards the people from Langyu Inscription City. The latter group was originally rushing towards the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. However, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed and appeared beside them. Boom boom boom. The inscription patterns that they blasted out were all blocked by Luo Qingtong. Looking at the youth's relaxed movements, it was indescribably smooth. In an instant, the group of people from Langyu Inscription City opened their eyes wide. They looked at the youth in front of them in disbelief. The latter's figure is like the wind. He is tall and slender, holding a jade fan in his hand. What an outstanding and casual style. Sorry, the people that my master wants to protect, you can't touch a single one of them. Luo Qingtong lightly waved the jade fan in her hand and easily blocked the inscription patterns that they blasted out. Most of the inscription masters left behind in Cold Jade Inscription City were elementary and intermediate level inscription masters. The high-level inscription masters had already followed the city lord to the 4th floor or even higher. When Luo Qingtong dealt with them, it was a piece of cake. The only reason he hadn't immediately dealt with them was because he wanted to leave them for Song Qing to deal with. Boom! As Luo Qingtong blocked all the inscription patterns of the Cold Jade Inscription City, Song Cheng's attack also arrived. The inscription pattern he drew in his hand directly blasted towards the people in the Cold Jade Inscription City. Bang bang bang. Those people from Cold Jade Inscription City didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would be able to block their attacks. They also didn't expect that Song Cheng's inscription skills would be so much stronger than what they had imagined. They hurriedly drew their inscription patterns to collide with Song Cheng's inscription patterns. However, they did not expect that their inscription patterns would be destroyed. Boom boom boom. One by one, the inscription patterns exploded. In the next moment, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out from those inscription patterns, causing the inscription masters in Cold Jade Inscription City to be thrown off their feet. They screamed out miserably. Some of them were originally going to be blasted out of the inscription tower by the terrifying aura. However, Luo Qingtong was already prepared. When Song Qing attacked, she immediately followed up. Chapter 23:12. The inscription pattern created by Luo Qingtong coincidentally collided with the inscription pattern created by Song Cheng and the inscription pattern created by the people from Langyu Inscription City. Under such an attack, the aura of the inscription pattern created by Luo Qingtong and the inscription pattern created by Song Cheng and the inscription pattern created by the people from Langyu Inscription City cancelled each other out. It caused the aura of the inscription pattern to explode and cut the people from Langyu Inscription City to the point that they were drenched in blood. However, it didn't injure them at all, causing them to be unable to escape from the inscription tower with heavy injuries. "Alright, Uncle Masters," said Yi Futian. Luo Qingtong looked at the injured people from Langyu Inscription City and said to the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City with a smile, "They are here, you can deal with them. Martial uncles, please don't show any mercy. Just deal with them the way they dealt with you guys." The moment Luo Qingtong's words left her mouth, the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City who were stunned instantly regained their senses and looked at her with astonishment. How could the crowd not see that Luo Qingtong's disciple's inscription pattern ability was above Song Cheng's? Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to block the aura of the inscription pattern created by Song Cheng and the people from Langyu Inscription City so easily. Coincidentally, she was able to control the aura of the inscription pattern at the same level, causing the people from Langyu Inscription City to be injured but not sent out of the inscription tower. This inscription pattern control ability was simply terrifying. The crowd was overwhelmed with shock, they didn't know what was going on. Such a person with such a powerful inscription pattern talent was actually Song Cheng's disciple? Not only that, Song Cheng's inscription pattern talent had also increased so much in an instant. What was going on? The crowd was shocked, they didn't know what was going on. Only Song Cheng knew that this was all due to his disciple's ability. However, he couldn't tell his martial brothers about this. After all, this was Luo Qingtong's own ability. Moreover, it was best for fewer people to know about this girl's ability. It wasn't that Song Qing didn't believe in his senior brothers, but Luo Qingtong's ability was too special. He was able to provide his abilities to others. How attractive would this be to those who did not have the strength or talent? Song Qing didn't know if Luo Qingtong could only provide inscription talents to others or if she could provide other talents as well. But just having the same inscription talent was enough to make people go crazy. In this world, there were very few people with inscription talent, not to mention Luo Qingtong's inscription talent. She was one in a million. Under such circumstances, if everyone knew that Luo Qingtong had such an ability, wouldn't Luo Qingtong be like a delicious cake? Everyone would want to take a bite of her. He wanted to obtain her inscription talent and strength from her. If such a thing were to happen, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, Song Cheng would never reveal Luo Qingtong's heaven-defying ability. Even if it was the Heavenly Wind Inscription City's lord, he wouldn't say it. Unless Luo Qingtong told him that he could reveal it, he would carry this secret with him to the grave. Song Cheng made up his mind. He didn't mention a single word about Luo Qingtong's ability. He also didn't say how he was able to obtain his current talent and strength. He only let the Heavenly Wind Inscription City's people take care of these Langyu Inscription City's people. As for himself, he continued to rush upstairs with Luo Qingtong. Chapter 23:13. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. Junior brother Cheng. You must be careful when you go. There's a black-clothed man in Langyu Inscription City. He's extremely powerful, so you must be careful. The one who called out to Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng was a senior inscription master from Heavenly Wind Inscription City. They originally didn't have any hope for the fight for the inscription tower this time. They tried their best to climb up because they weren't willing to give up. However, at this moment, under the inscription talent that Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng revealed, hope was reignited in their hearts. This time, they might really be able to take back the inscription tower. As everyone thought about it, their hearts were filled with excitement. However, at the same time, they were also extremely worried in their hearts. This was because the people from Langyu Inscription City weren't easy to deal with. Those who were here were only ordinary people among the people from Langyu Inscription City who came this time. Those who were strong had already followed Langyu Inscription City Lord and the others to ascend the tower. The inscription tower had a strong effect on an inscription master. Thus, under such circumstances, Langyu Inscription City Lord and the others naturally climbed as high as they could. What made the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City even more worried was the black-clothed man in Langyu Inscription City. They were injured by the other party. Otherwise, under the threat of Langyu Inscription City Lord and the others, even if they couldn't deal with him, they wouldn't be blocked on the third floor. It was that black-clothed man who blocked them from the third floor, preventing them from rushing to the fourth floor and leaving. Song Cheng's face instantly darkened when he heard the words of the Heavenly Wind Inscription City's senior inscription master. It's the person who injured Master, right? Song Cheng's face was cold. The Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord wholeheartedly wanted to protect Heavenly Wind Inscription City. In the end, he would rather self-destruct his inscription mark and cripple his inscription strength to prevent the people from Langyu Inscription City from seizing the inscription tower. At that time, the person who dealt with the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord was a mysterious black-clothed man from Langyu Inscription City. The latter was shrouded in black clothes and was definitely not from Langyu Inscription City. Song Cheng and the others didn't know who the other party was. But it was that person who joined Langyu Inscription City and injured the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord, crippling the latter's inscription strength. Song Cheng originally thought that the other party would not appear here this time. After all, the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord had been crippled. These people were basically no match for the Cold Jade Inscription City Lord. With the strength of that black-clothed man, it was reasonable to say that he would not attack again. He didn't expect the other party to be in the inscription tower. Not only that, he even hid in Langyu City's group and injured the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City, wanting to wantonly humiliate them. Song Cheng clenched his teeth as he recalled the series of things that the other party had done. The inscription master from Heavenly Wind City nodded when he heard that. That's right. It was him. Junior apprentice brother Cheng, you must be careful. Hope had been ignited in everyone's hearts, and they didn't want to see their hopes dashed. Especially Luo Qingtong, this disciple of Song Cheng. Her inscription talent was obviously much stronger than Song Cheng's. Everyone looked at the two of them, endless hope rising in their hearts. At this moment, the group of people from Cold Jade Inscription City who were knocked to the ground were enduring the injuries on their bodies as they sneered and said, laughable. Do you think you can defeat our city lord and the others? Chapter 23:14. As they spoke, they laughed heartily and their expressions were filled with pride. Especially an intermediate inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City, he laughed and said, and you guys, do you really think that after injuring us, you can do whatever you want? Don't forget, in this inscription tower, as long as the attack exceeds the limit that you can withstand, you will be expelled from the inscription tower. You people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City are stupid, risking your lives to climb into the inscription tower, but we don't have such thoughts. Haha. As long as we attack ourselves and the power on our bodies exceeds the limit that we can withstand, we can leave this inscription tower. You people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City can stay here and slowly be stupid. Haha. As the intermediate inscription master from Heavenly Wind Inscription City spoke, he raised his hand and was about to draw an inscription pattern towards himself. However, before he could make a move, Luo Qingtong had already raised her hand and an inscription pattern shot out. In an instant, a huge inscription pattern floated above the heads of the people from Cold Jade Inscription City. Streaks of inscription pattern energy were emitted from it. The intermediate inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City lost all his power in an instant. It was sealed by the huge inscription pattern. Spirit restriction inscription pattern. You. The intermediate inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City felt that he was unable to use the power around his body. In an instant, his face was filled with shock. Spirit restriction inscription pattern. That was an inscription pattern that only spirit inscription masters and above could use. This. How could her inscription skills be so strong? Wasn't she Song Cheng's disciple? Everyone was shocked. They didn't know that Luo Qingtong's inscription skills were so strong that she could draw the spirit restriction inscription pattern that only spirit inscription masters could draw. Since she was so strong, how could she be Song Cheng's disciple? The inscription masters from Cold Jade Inscription City were shocked. Not only was the intermediate inscription master who mocked her dumbfounded, the other inscription masters were also in disbelief. The people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City were also in a daze. They looked at Luo Qingtong's direction in disbelief. They didn't expect Song Cheng's disciple to be so strong. Who was this young man named Xie Qi? What kind of fortuitous encounter did Song Cheng have when he went out to train and break through? The people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City were shocked. Luo Qingtong had already slowly retracted her hand. She smiled at the inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City and said, "Thank you for reminding me just now. Otherwise, after I leave, I'm afraid you guys would have escaped. But for now, all of you should just obediently wait in the inscription tower and enjoy yourselves. As for whether or not I can deal with that black-clothed man, that is not something you need to worry about." The moment Luo Qingtong's words left her mouth, that Langyu Inscription City's intermediate inscription master wanted to cry. How could his mouth be so cheap? If he knew that the other party's inscription skills were so strong, he wouldn't have told Luo Qingtong the method to leave. But who would have thought? This disciple of Song Cheng was actually such a freak. Despite being so young, he actually possessed the strength of a spirit print master. How was this possible? They couldn't figure it out no matter how hard they racked their brains. Chapter 23:15. As for Luo Qingtong, after imprisoning them, she went up to the 4th floor with Song Cheng. There was no sign of Langyu City Lord and the others on the 4th floor. There were a total of 7 floors in the inscription tower. It was already rare for an ordinary inscription master to be able to reach the 4th floor. This was because the strength and pressure in the inscription tower was stronger than the previous floor. Under such circumstances, every time he advanced a level, it would represent a huge breakthrough in his comprehension of inscriptions. This kind of breakthrough wasn't in the level of inscription strength, but in the realm of comprehension. However, once this kind of breakthrough was made, after leaving the inscription tower, one's inscription strength would also have a breakthrough not long after. There were almost no existences like Luo Qingtong, whose inscription strength wasn't high, but whose inscription comprehension was ridiculously strong. No, it could be said that there were no such existences at all. Therefore, no one thought that her strength would be so strong in the inscription tower. Even Song Cheng, although holding on to a glimmer of hope, didn't think that she would be able to display such a terrifying inscription strength in the inscription tower. You. T. Song Cheng was still unable to react after being pulled to the 4th floor by Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong actually had the strength of a spirit print master. She could actually inscribe inscription patterns that only spirit print masters could inscribe. Song Cheng's eyes widened. Only the heavens knew that he had pretended to have expected this in front of the people from Tianfeng Inscription City and Lengyu Inscription City. In fact, he didn't think that Luo Qingtong's strength would be so strong. Oh my God! His disciple was simply going to heaven. How could her inscription talent be so powerful? This simply overturned Song Cheng's understanding of inscriptions. As for Luo Qingtong, after not seeing Lengyu Inscription City Lord and the others on the 4th floor, she brought Song Cheng directly to the 5th floor. The 5th floor was the place where ordinary high-level inscription masters stayed. Lengyu Inscription City Lord and his trusted subordinates were about the same level of strength. On the 5th floor, they were already considered leaders. Under such circumstances, every time he advanced a level, it would represent a huge breakthrough in his comprehension of inscriptions. This kind of breakthrough wasn't in terms of inscription strength but in terms of comprehension. However, once he made a breakthrough, his inscription strength would also make a breakthrough not long after he left the inscription tower. As for people like Luo Qingtong, whose inscription skills hadn't reached that level, but whose inscription comprehension was extremely powerful, it was almost impossible for them to exist. Thus, after Lengyu Inscription City Lord and the others reached the 4th floor, they were all shocked. He immediately headed to the 5th level. The 5th level was where normal high-level inscriptionists stayed. City Lord Lang Yuan and his trusted aides were all at the same level. On the 5th level, they would be able to obtain great experience and breakthrough. The group of people were all choosing the inscription patterns they were good at. They were constantly drawing and practicing, searching for the bottleneck and breakthrough points in their own inscription skills. These inscription patterns had to be practiced one by one in order to increase proficiency. When their proficiency increased to a certain level, they would naturally comprehend a breakthrough in their own inscription technique. From there, he could draw an even stronger inscription pattern. Chapter 23:16. And this meaning is exactly where the power of the higher level inscription pattern lies. While Lengyu City Lord and the others were practicing on the 5th floor, Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng also came to the 5th floor. Shoo! Luo Qingtong looked at the scene of Lengyu, City Lord Lengyu, and the others drawing inscriptions on the 5th level. Her lips curled up, and she instantly raised her hand to stop Song Cheng from rushing out. What's wrong? Disciple? Song Cheng looked at Lengyu City Lord and the others with fire in his eyes. He was about to rush out but was stopped by Luo Qingtong. He immediately lowered his voice and asked her. See if the black-clothed man is here? Luo Qingtong asked him. Oh, Song Cheng glanced around and saw that the people of Lengyu City standing here were all familiar faces. He immediately shook his head and said, I don't think he's here. Song Cheng didn't recognize the black-clothed man. Because the other party didn't show his face from the beginning to the end, nor did he appear in front of them. Even the Heavenly Wind Inscription City Lord who fought with him didn't know what he looked like. The black-clothed man was very mysterious. No one knew why he wanted to help the people of Lengyu City. Song Cheng suspected that the black-clothed man was here for the inscription tower. But this inscription tower had almost no effect on people above the Spirit Seal Master level. Could it be that the black-clothed man was here for the battle inscription pattern at the peak of the human martial realm? If that was the case, then it wasn't impossible. After all, there were many Spirit Seal Masters in the world, but there were very few Spirit Seal Masters who could draw battle inscriptions. As Song Cheng was thinking, Luo Qingtong nodded and said, That's right. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She held the jade fan in her hand. Her fingertips were as gentle as jade and mixed with the fan handle. For a moment, one couldn't tell if it was the color of the fan handle or her fingers. She raised her hand and pointed at the scene in front of them. She said in a low voice, "The black-clothed man isn't here. That means he's on the 6th floor. If I follow them, Master, you might not be able to deal with this group of people from Cold Jade Inscription City." Moreover, Luo Qingtong didn't mention that there was a time limit to the inscription pattern she shared with Song Cheng. If Song Cheng wasn't careful and got entangled by these people from Lengyu Inscription City, he wouldn't be able to deal with them in time. Then, Song Cheng would be out of luck. Even if Song Cheng was fine in the end and didn't pick up the Cold Jade inscription, the city lord would still lose this bet. Song Cheng was taken aback when Luo Qingtong said that. He hurriedly asked, "Disciple, what should we do?" Luo Qingtong was definitely going to deal with the man in black. Whether or not the inscription tower could be saved was all on Luo Qingtong. It was absolutely impossible for Song Cheng to let Luo Qingtong stay behind to deal with Lengyu Mingwen and the others. Not to mention that the black-clothed man was already on the 6th floor. If Luo Qingtong was entangled here, the longer the opponent stayed on the 6th floor, the higher the chances of Cold Jade Inscription City winning. Song Cheng didn't want to win against Lengyu Mingwen and lose the inscription tower. At that time, even if Tianfeng Inscription City Lord and the others were saved, they wouldn't be happy. After Song Cheng said that, Luo Qingtong smiled mysteriously and said to him, "I naturally have a way. Follow me." Chapter 23:17. As for Lengyu City Lord and the rest, they did not notice Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng's approach at all. When practicing a new inscription pattern, one must be completely focused. As for Lengyu City Lord and the rest, they did not expect anyone else to reach the 5th level. They blocked all the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City on the 3rd level. Under such circumstances, they were not worried that someone would rush into the 5th level to disturb them. Thus, all of them relaxed their vigilance and focused on practicing their newly learned inscription patterns. The aura of the inscription tower is really useful. A senior inscription master from Lengyu City sighed. In his hand, lines of inscription patterns formed one after another and quickly formed a complete inscription pattern. However, when he was about to succeed, he paused uncertainly. In an instant, the inscription pattern in his hand became crooked. In an instant, the inscription pattern that was about to be formed collapsed in his hand. This senior inscription master from Lengyu City did not care at all. He casually waved his hand and continued to draw inscription patterns. If this was outside, without a certain amount of rest, it would be impossible to do it. However, in the inscription tower, they could practice indefinitely until their mental strength was exhausted and their energy was exhausted. Under such circumstances, the improvement of the inscription masters was very obvious. This was because when they were improving their inscription techniques, the proficiency and use of inscription patterns was extremely important. Only when they were completely proficient and grasped the inscription patterns needed by their own level. Only then would they be able to attack the inscription patterns of the higher level. Otherwise, any mistake could lead to the collapse and disintegration of the inscription patterns they were drawing. Just like the senior inscription master from Lengyu City. Not only that, if they were not proficient enough, they would not even know how the lines of the higher level inscription patterns were arranged. Inscription techniques were definitely not that simple. These high-level inscriptionists of the Cold Jade Inscription City were enjoying their time on the 5th floor. Their inscription techniques had already reached a certain level. If they did not have the help of the inscription tower, they might not be able to break through even after 10 years. However, at this moment, with the help of the inscription tower's aura, their understanding of their own inscription techniques quickly deepened. If nothing unexpected happened, they should be able to break through their respective realms very soon this time. Yeah. Another Lengyu Inscription City's senior inscription master sighed after the previous inscription master's words. He laughed loudly and said, "Such a treasure should belong to our Cold Jade Inscription City. Those trash from Heavenly Wind Inscription City should still be in despair on the 3rd level, right? Ha ha ha. This time, the inscription tower is definitely ours." When we obtain the inscription tower, we will be able to see them cripple their own inscription techniques in despair. That would be great. Yes. Our city lord's move is really brilliant. In the future, we won't have to worry about the people from Heavenly Wind Inscription City snatching the inscription tower away. Previously, the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City used Song City's bet to win back 10%. Now, we have to let them know what it means to be powerless and hopeless. The crowd burst into laughter. Chapter 23:18. That cold Jade Inscription City's senior inscriptionist was facing Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng. At this moment, he was roaring with laughter as he drew the inscription pattern in his hand. Luo Qingtong looked at his actions and slightly narrowed her eyes. She instantly flashed out and flew out. An inscription pattern formed in Luo Qingtong's hand and blasted towards that senior inscriptionist. Seeing this scene, Song Cheng was shocked. Before he could ask why Luo Qingtong did this, that senior inscriptionist from Cold Jade Inscription City jumped up and angrily looked in their direction. Song Cheng's expression suddenly turned cold and was about to prepare for battle. However, Luo Qingtong pulled him to hide behind a pillar at the side. Coincidentally, they avoided the senior inscriptionist from Cold Jade Inscription City's line of sight. The floors of the inscription tower were not spacious and unobstructed. There were pillars one after another in the floor. Not only did they have the function of supporting the floor, they also divided the floor into small areas. It was convenient for inscriptionists to practice inscription techniques. Generally speaking, an inscriptionist would be in one area. And Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng happened to be at the back of the Cold Jade Inscription City senior inscriptionists area. After they hid behind the pillar, the senior inscriptionist from Cold Jade Inscription City's line of sight was blocked. He angrily rushed towards the area behind him and shouted at the senior inscriptionist, "Mao Diheo, what is the meaning of this? Why did you attack me?" That senior inscriptionist from Cold Jade Inscription City called Mao Diheo looked at him with a baffled expression. He didn't know what was going on with him. "What's wrong with you? When did I attack you? You're still quibbling. The power of the attack clearly came from you. You're disturbing me from practicing inscription patterns. What are you thinking?" That senior inscriptionist from Cold Jade Inscription City had a gloomy expression. He originally only wanted to question Mao Diheo and make him apologize. In the end, the other party actually refused to admit it. Did that mean that he had deliberately slandered him? Or did he do it on purpose? The purpose was to disturb his practice of inscription patterns and prevent him from successfully breaking through. This inscription master from Cold Jade Inscription City had a basis for his suspicions. All of them had similar inscription strengths. If they cultivated separately according to the previous situation, the time difference between their breakthroughs might not be too big. But now, with the help of the inscription tower's aura, the gap between them had widened. This Lengyu Inscription City's senior inscription master who was attacked by Luo Qingtong clearly improved faster than the one called Mao Diheo. In that case, he naturally suspected that the other party was deliberately sabotaging him. As for the senior inscription master called Mao Diheo, he was clearly unhappy because his strength was not as fast as the other party. Hearing his words, he was instantly enraged. "I should be the one asking you what you mean. What? You think you're amazing just because you've improved your strength faster than me? Let me tell you, if you want to find fault with me, there's no way. Get lost." As he spoke, he directly threw an inscription pattern towards that Lengyu Inscription City's senior inscription master. When his attack was thrown out, that Lengyu Inscription City's senior inscription master was also enraged. He immediately threw an inscription pattern over. Chapter 23:19. While the two of them were fighting, Luo Qingtong also secretly threw several inscription patterns at the other senior inscriptionists, causing them to be unable to practice inscription patterns in peace. The crowd tried to persuade them, but Mao Diheo and the senior inscriptionists from Lengyu City refused to admit that they were in the wrong. In addition, the inscription patterns would hit the senior inscriptionists from time to time, interrupting their process of studying inscription patterns. In an instant, the senior inscriptionists from Lanyu City were enraged and joined the battle. The group of Cold Jade Inscription City's high-level inscriptionists were just like that. They were having a great time fighting. Song Cheng was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. Luo Qingtong's movements were as fast as lightning, and the angle of attack was just right. The people from Lanyu City did not know that someone was deliberately causing trouble. What shocked Song Cheng even more was that Luo Qingtong was using the inscription patterns that the senior inscriptionists from Lanyu City used. It had to be known that every senior inscriptionists were proficient in different inscription patterns. Even if an ordinary senior inscriptionist learned the inscription patterns that the senior inscriptionists were proficient in, the aura of the inscription patterns that the senior inscriptionists inscribed would be different from the senior inscriptionists. But Luo Qingtong was different. Song Cheng's eyes were wide open as he looked at the inscription patterns that Luo Qingtong was inscribing. The inscription patterns drawn by the youth were exactly the same as the ones drawn by the high-level inscription masters of Cold Jade Inscription City. Not only that, even the aura was not much different. More importantly, Luo Qingtong did not seem to need to practice at all. She could inscribe an inscription pattern with just a lift of her hand. That familiar posture was as if she had practiced it thousands of times and was very familiar with it. Oh my God! If it wasn't for the fact that Song Cheng and Luo Qingtong knew each other from the start and knew that she had started learning inscription patterns from scratch, he would have thought that she was from Lanyu City. He also knew that she came from a 9th-grade continent like True Spill continent. He would have thought that the person standing in front of him was a super master who had studied inscription patterns for countless years. No, that's not right. Even if it was a super master who had studied inscriptions to the point of perfection, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to do what Luo Qingtong did. What she was doing was no longer a carving, but a copy. Luo Qingtong was copying the inscription pattern. Copying the inscription patterns of those high-level inscriptionists in Cold Jade Inscription City. In fact, this was indeed the case. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was using the eye technique copy to copy the inscription patterns that the high-level inscription masters of Lanyu City were adept at. These Cold Jade Inscription City's high-level inscription masters all had their own inscription patterns that they were good at. Their understanding of the inscription patterns that they were good at was something that ordinary people couldn't compare to. Luo Qingtong copied their inscription patterns, which was equivalent to fusing their understanding of inscription patterns into her mind. Under such circumstances, her understanding of the inscription technique continued to deepen. This was much faster than Luo Qingtong practicing the inscription patterns according to the inheritance left by the Immortal Slayer Palace in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. The improvement of her inscription technique would be much greater than if she were to practice like that. After all, she had used her eye technique to see through those inscription patterns. After all, Luo Qingtong had used her eye technique to practice the inscription patterns. It was equivalent to copying the standard answers in an exam. Although the final result was correct, she still couldn't understand the meaning of those questions. However, if he were to copy the inscription patterns of the senior inscriptionists in Cold Jade Inscription City, it would be equivalent to copying the steps and thoughts of the inscriptionists into the inscription patterns. Chapter 23:20. Luo Qingtong continued to throw out inscription patterns, absorbing the understanding and inscription of the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City. At the same time, she continued to disturb the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City, not giving them the chance to stop and think about what was going on. Cold Jade Inscription City Lord, who occupied the best location on the 5th floor and also the place where the aura of the inscription tower was the densest, noticed that something was wrong with his surroundings and retreated from his comprehension of the inscription technique. Because these high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City had selfish motives in their hearts and were fighting privately, they intentionally avoided Cold Jade Inscription City Lord when they were attacking. Luo Qingtong also did not want to touch him. She wanted to give him a chance to stop this chaotic battle. Thus, everyone had the same goal and did not attack Cold Jade Inscription City Lord. When the latter realized that something was wrong and regained his senses, the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City were all injured. Bastard! All of you, what are you doing? All of you, stop! As soon as Cold Jade Inscription City Lord woke up, he started cursing loudly. Can't these fellows be at ease? They are fighting to the death in the Inscription Tower, isn't it just for some improvement? When the Inscription Tower is theirs in the future, they can improve however they want. Is there a need to be so petty? Cold Jade Inscription City Lord was about to be angered to death by these people. After Cold Jade Inscription City Lord spoke, although the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City were still unconvinced, they slowly stopped. At this moment, swish! A huge inscription pattern instantly flew out from Luo Qingtong's hand and enveloped the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City. Spirit Restriction Inscription Pattern. Along with this inscription pattern flying out. In an instant, the high-level inscriptionists from Cold Jade Inscription City who were all injured from killing each other had no time to dodge and were instantly enveloped by Luo Qingtong's huge inscription pattern. No need, I think it's good for them to fight like this. Let's continue like this, don't stop. As the youth spoke, he flashed out from behind the pillar with a smile. A jade fan complemented the golden mask on his face. His lips were slightly raised, giving off an indescribable sense of coolness and wickedness. When the inscription pattern in Luo Qingtong's hand blasted out, Lengyu City Lord and the others were shocked. You! Out of all the people from Cold Jade Inscription City, only the City Lord managed to escape from Luo Qingtong's huge spirit restriction inscription. As for the others, they were all enveloped in it. Suddenly, they felt the power around them disappear. They lost all their strength and all of them fell to the ground. This? The high-level inscriptionists of Lengyu City were shocked. Lengyu, the City Lord, was even more shocked. He looked at the huge inscription pattern created by Luo Qingtong and Song Cheng who walked out from behind her. The shock in his heart was indescribable. You? Song Cheng, you piece of trash, what's going on? Why are you here? Lengyu City Lord found it hard to believe. Song Cheng, this inscription pattern trash, actually appeared on the 5th floor. With his inscription pattern talent, shouldn't he not be able to enter the 2nd floor? Chapter 23-21. Lengyu Inscription City Lord looked at Luo Qingtong. If he wasn't wrong, that inscription pattern just now was a spirit restriction inscription? Song Cheng's disciple was actually a spirit seal master? Lengyu Inscription City Lord was shocked to the extreme. At this moment, he didn't believe that Luo Qingtong was Song Cheng's disciple at all. This was definitely an external aid that Tianfeng Inscription City had invited from outside, just like their Lengyu Inscription City's Master Chen. However, wasn't the other party a little too young? Looking at this hand and the exposed chin, this degree of smoothness and firmness, he didn't look like a respected master at all. How could he be so powerful? Moreover, the other party even called Song Cheng master. Shouldn't such an inscription expert be proud and arrogant? Even if he came to help Tianfeng Inscription City, why would he lower himself and call Song Cheng master? Moreover, this fellow Song Cheng was an inscription trash. In Lengyu Inscription City Lord's heart, he couldn't understand what was going on. However, this didn't stop him from threatening the other party with a stern voice. Who are you? I advise you to not interfere in the matters of our Lengyu Inscription City and Tianfeng Inscription City. Our Lengyu Inscription City also has a spirit seal master. Moreover, Lengyu Inscription City Lord sneered and raised his head. Our Lengyu Inscription City's Master Chen is related to the 3-star domain. Lengyu Inscription City Lord said with a strong appearance, but his heart was beating like a drum. He also didn't know where Luo Qingtong came from. This Xia Qi seemed to have suddenly popped out and directly wanted to help Tianfeng Inscription City. Originally, Lengyu Inscription City Lord didn't put her in his eyes. He only thought that she was a little disciple that Song Cheng had met outside. She didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and wanted to help Tianfeng Inscription City. Previously, when he was outside, he deliberately provoked Luo Qingtong to sign a bet with him. He even thought that his method was great. However, at this moment, looking at Luo Qingtong who appeared on the 5th floor with Song Cheng, Lengyu Inscription City Lord's heart felt a chill. His body shuddered violently, and his heart was filled with extreme regret. The bet he made with Luo Qingtong was probably the thing he regretted the most in his entire life. He recalled that he had previously said that as long as Song Qing defeated him, he would atone for his sins with his death. Not only that, he also wanted everyone from Langyu Inscription City to cripple their own inscription techniques. His heart trembled when he heard that. He looked at Song Qing, who was standing next to Luo Qingtong. He no longer had the confidence he had before. He originally thought that the inscription pattern trash had actually reached the 5th level. Was this Song Qing pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Or was Xie Qi's strength unfathomable? He was actually able to turn something rotten into something magical and raise Song Qing's strength to such a powerful level? How did he do it? Just when Langyu City Lord's heart was filled with cold sweat, and his back was drenched in sweat, Luo Qingtong indifferently said to Song Qing, "Master, I'll leave him to you. These people are also up to you to deal with." Luo Qingtong's last sentence was naturally referring to those high-level inscriptionists of Langyu Inscription City who had their inscription techniques restricted by her. Luo Qingtong didn't forget that the people from Tianfeng Inscription City were all stuck on the 3rd floor of the inscription tower. These high-level inscriptionists of Langyu Inscription City were all part of it. She wouldn't let a single one of them go. They were all handed over to Song Qing to deal with. Chapter 23-22. When Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, Song Qing's voice also sounded. "Don't worry, disciple. Leave this matter to me." Song Qing didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would actually help him to this extent. When he saw Langyu City Lord and the others on the 5th floor, he didn't have any confidence in dealing with them. But now, with Luo Qingtong's help, those senior inscriptionists in Langyu City were crippled. Without their help, Song Qing was still very confident in dealing with Langyu Mingwen alone. As for those senior inscriptionists in Langyu City, he wouldn't let them off. He would definitely let them experience the same pain and despair as the inscriptionists in Tianfeng Inscription City. Luo Qingtong nodded her head when Song Qing's voice sounded and then rushed towards the 6th floor. The black-clothed man in Langyu City wasn't here. It was obvious that he was on the 6th floor. That black-clothed man's strength had indeed reached the level of a spirit print master. Those people in Langyu City weren't wrong about this. Seeing Luo Qingtong's figure rushing towards the 6th floor, Langyu City Lord subconsciously wanted to stop her. However, before he could make a move, Song Qing had already blasted out an inscription pattern and stopped him. City Lord Lu, your opponent is me. Why are you looking at my disciple? Don't worry, you're still not my disciple's match. You should be glad that my disciple doesn't have time to deal with you. Otherwise, you'll definitely know what a blow is. Song Qing said with a face full of arrogance. In fact, it was true. Song Qing had never seen a monstrous inscription genius like Luo Qingtong. It was as if the other party was born for inscriptions. No, not only inscriptions, Luo Qingtong was equally powerful no matter if it was pills or formations. The young girl's talent, in Song Qing's eyes, was the best in the world. No one could compare to her. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Song Qing wouldn't dare to believe it. Song Qing. He's definitely not your disciple. Who is he? Langyu City Lord's face was filled with anger. He didn't expect that Xie Qi would appear out of nowhere. The other party had never appeared before the inscription tower. Not to mention that this young man had the strength of a spirit print master at such a young age. How could such a person be Song Qing's disciple? This was absolutely impossible. The other party must be hiding his identity. However, Ling Yuan did not expect that Luo Qingtong had indeed hidden her identity. But that was only because her status was too low and she didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. If he knew that Luo Qingtong's identity was just a young girl from a low-level continent in the 9-star domain, his expression would be even more incredulous. After all, it was such a remote and backward star field. As far as they knew, there were almost no inscription masters. Even an ordinary inscription master apprentice would be able to call the wind and summon the rain and be sought after by others. How could a spirit print master like Luo Qingtong be from there? Therefore, Lin Yuan did not think in that direction at all. He only thought that Luo Qingtong was from a higher star field. He also didn't know that the strength that Luo Qingtong displayed at this moment was only because her understanding of inscriptions was more powerful. Chapter 23-23. However, even if Song Qing said such a thing, he might not believe it. Hence, Song Qing was too lazy to answer. Humph. It's not up to you to know what kind of person my disciple is. Lu Zhitong, just wait for your bad luck this time. As Song Qing spoke, he rushed towards Langyu Inscription City Lord. Before Luo Qingtong left, she told him that there was a time limit to his inscription skills. She told him not to delay for too long and to deal with Langyu Inscription City Lord first. Although Song Qing already knew that the improvement of his inscription skills was related to Luo Qingtong, when he heard it from Luo Qingtong, he still couldn't hide the shock in his heart. This disciple of his was really incredible. This time, their Tianfeng Inscription City might really be able to defend the inscription tower. Just as Song Qing was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong's figure had already entered the 6th floor. Boom! The pressure on the 6th floor of the inscription tower was much stronger than the one on the 5th floor. As soon as Luo Qingtong's figure appeared on it, she was instantly frozen on the spot by a terrifying aura of suppression that came crashing down. The aura that was enveloped by the aura was completely related to the understanding of a spirit print master's inscription marks and realms. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong had read a lot of inscription books in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. At this moment, the blood-red light in her eyes flickered violently. Very quickly, she dissolved the aura that was enough to blast an ordinary senior inscription master out and crush them on the spot. Swish! Waves of aura lingered around Luo Qingtong and turned into an aura of inscription power that she could use. This was the magical part of the inscription tower. It was used to train and strengthen the understanding of an inscription master's inscription techniques. As long as your inscription technique comprehension and realms reached the standard, even if your strength wasn't enough, you could use the power of this realm. If this was in the outside world, it was absolutely impossible. After all, the aura of inscription techniques in the outside world required a corresponding strength to break it. It was completely different from the inscription tower. When Luo Qingtong appeared on the 6th level, at the entrance of the 6th and 7th levels, Master Chen's figure was also shrouded in a black cloak. He looked at the entrance greedily and passionately. The 7th floor, that thing is in there. It's a pity, Master Chen said as he took a big step forward. However, he had just taken this step. Wang! The light shrouding the entrance to the 7th floor buzzed and suddenly grew stronger. In an instant, it landed on his body. Countless inscriptions lit up on Master Chen's body. The strength of a heaven-grade spirit seal master and his understanding of inscription patterns were revealed, but he still couldn't resist the pressure from the 7th floor. He didn't even manage to block it for a moment before he was sent flying by the terrifying aura. If it wasn't for the fact that his understanding of inscription patterns and strength were strong enough, this attack would have been enough to blast him out of the inscription tower. I still can't get in. This 7th floor is indeed not something that ordinary people can enter. Master Chen got up from the ground and looked at the 7th floor without any surprise. There were a total of 7 floors in the inscription tower. As long as one's strength reached a certain level, they could enter the first 6 floors. However, since ancient times, only the most outstanding genius disciples were able to enter the 7th floor. Chapter 23-24. It was said that the president of the Central Inscription Union had tried it before, but he was unable to enter. However, it was precisely because of this that the thing he wanted was kept inside and not taken away by anyone. As Master Chen thought about it, he wasn't so angry anymore. Looks like I can only wait for the people of Langyu City to obtain the inscription tower before I think of a way to take the thing out. As he thought about it, he instantly got up from the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his lips, and closed his eyes to rest. In any case, it was almost impossible for anyone to defeat him in the inscription tower. Apart from the city lord of Tianfeng Inscription City, it was impossible for anyone to come up to the 6th floor of the inscription tower. The latter had already self-detonated his inscription mark during the previous battle for the inscription tower. Not to mention that he didn't come this time. Even if he did, he would only be beaten up. It was impossible for him to compete with him. Not to mention that he had learned his lesson last time. This time, he would absolutely not give the other party any chance to make a comeback. After all, it was easy to be discovered as long as the thing in the inscription tower wasn't taken out. At that time, his painstaking effort to conceal his identity and come to such a low-level inscription city to seize the inscription tower would be in vain. While Master Chen closed his eyes to rest and recover from the injuries in his body, not far away from the 6th floor of the inscription tower, Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold as she looked in his direction. This black-clothed man is actually a heaven-level spirit seal master. Little Pig, who was perched on her shoulder, muttered softly. Fortunately, you weren't rash and directly fought with him. Otherwise, we would be in big trouble. When Little Pig saw Master Chen resisting the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, he was also shocked by the aura of the inscription patterns that rippled out from his body. With the inscription ability of a heaven-level spirit seal master, his status in the Central Inscription Union wouldn't be low. Why would he suddenly appear in Tianfeng Inscription City and even fight for the inscription tower for the people of Lengyu City? Logically speaking, the inscription tower was of no help to him at all. If it was the 9-story inscription tower in the Central Inscription Union, it might be of some help to him. This person is definitely plotting something here. It whispered in front of Luo Qingtong. The latter glanced at it and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. Was there a need for it to say that? She could tell too. Otherwise, why would a heaven-grade spirit seal master appear here? Previously, Luo Qingtong also thought that if she knew her enemy, she could win 100 battles. Therefore, she deliberately sneaked over without alerting the black-clothed man. She wanted to see what he was doing here. If the other party wanted to get the human martial level battle inscription mark, she could have interfered and sabotaged it. She didn't expect to see such a scene. This Master Chen wants the item on the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked in the direction of the entrance to the 7th floor. Wherever her gaze landed, her blood-red eyes trembled slightly, as if she wanted to see through the scene. However, the light that shrouded the entrance to the 7th floor was so strong that Luo Qingtong couldn't see through it. And that Master Chen was sitting near the entrance, so she couldn't walk over to take a closer look. She also couldn't fully activate her blood-red eyes. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if she didn't see the entrance to the 7th floor and alerted the other party. Chapter 23-25. Suddenly, Master Chen made a move. Looking at his appearance, it seemed like he still wanted to try and see if he could enter the 7th floor. However, this was normal. He was the only one on the 6th floor. Master Chen didn't need to practice inscription patterns here. Under such circumstances, instead of staying here and doing nothing, he might as well try and see if he could enter the 7th floor. Therefore, Luo Qingtong watched as he continued to walk towards the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked at Master Chen's movements, and the bloody light in her eyes flickered. All of a sudden, her eyes lit up and she laughed. That's it. She snuck up behind Master Chen and made sure that she was in his blind spot. He wouldn't be able to see her or see her movements, so she made her move. Boom! When Master Chen took a step forward and blocked the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern also hit the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes allowed her to copy the aura of anyone's inscription pattern. Her inscription pattern was exactly the aura of Master Chen's inscription pattern. Master Chen was entangled with the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, and the aura of the inscription patterns around him was desperately attacking the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. With so many inscription patterns entangled with each other, Master Chen didn't notice anything wrong with the aura of Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern. Boom! After Luo Qingtong's inscription pattern was blasted out, Master Chen was obviously able to withstand the light at the entrance of the 7th floor for a moment longer. Then, with a boom, he was blown away again. However, this time, Master Chen was overjoyed. The light at the entrance of the 7th floor was shaken. Master Chen was pleasantly surprised by the revelation. He had already tried several times at the entrance. The feeling was the same every time. However, this time, he clearly felt that the light at the entrance was weakened. Could it be that his attack was effective? Did he accidentally hit a certain part of the entrance, and that was why it was shaken? If that was the case, didn't it mean that he might be able to enter and obtain that item this time? Thinking of this, Master Chen was very excited. If he could, of course, he wanted to take that thing away as soon as possible. Although they could wait until the people of Langyu City obtained the inscription tower, they could slowly study it and take it away. But in this way, the longer he stayed, the more likely his identity would be exposed. If others were to find out that he had obtained this item, it would be a huge disaster. Thinking of this, Master Chen immediately made up his mind. He didn't even care about healing himself as he rushed toward the entrance of the 7th level. Looking at his action, Luo Qingtong raised her eyes slightly. Following her previous action, she continued to cooperate with him and blasted the light at the entrance of the 7th floor. The power of the inscription pagoda that she could control was not as strong as Master Chen's, but she had the eye sorcery. Chapter 23-26. Every attack from Luo Qingtong could help Master Chen shake the entrance to the 7th floor a little. How could Master Chen not be excited when he saw this scene? He originally thought that it would be impossible for him to break through the light at the entrance to the 7th floor in a short period of time. However, at this moment, with the assistance of Luo Qingtong, he saw the hope of breaking through. Immediately, his confidence increased greatly, and the strength of his attacks became even more powerful than before. Originally, he was afraid that he would hurt his foundation at the entrance to the 7th floor of the inscription tower, so he didn't dare to forcefully attack. Every time he tried to attack, he would hold back. Therefore, when he was sent flying by the light at the entrance to the 7th floor, he wouldn't be injured. After all, the light at the entrance to the 7th floor was reflected according to the attacker's strength. If someone who didn't meet the requirements entered, even someone as strong as the president of the Central Inscription Association would be sent flying with a single blow. If Master Chen used all his strength to attack, if he couldn't break through the light at the entrance to the 7th floor, he would definitely be seriously injured by the rebound of the attack. Therefore, when he attacked, he left some leeway. However, at this moment, seeing that he had hope of breaking through to the 7th floor, how could he hold back? Naturally, he would attack with all his strength so that he could successfully break through to the 7th floor. In this way, even if he was seriously injured, it didn't matter. Therefore, after a few consecutive attempts, Master Chen found that his strength was indeed able to shake the entrance to the 7th floor. Moreover, with Luo Qingtong's conscious cooperation, he felt that his attacks were becoming more and more effective. Immediately, he was wild with joy. In the end, he used all of his strength. All the inscription marks of a heaven-level spirit print master were mobilized in his body, and one powerful inscription pattern after another floated outside his body. Each of them was enough to kill an inscription master below the heaven-level spirit print master. Looking at the aura of the power of the inscription tower that was lingering around him, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed slightly. The opponent's strength was indeed powerful, and not something an ordinary spirit print master could compare to. Although Luo Qingtong's inscription comprehension was comparable to an ordinary spirit print master, she could only comprehend it and had never fought against an expert of the same level. Not to mention that Master Chen was one of the most powerful heavenly level spirit print masters. Although Little Pig didn't specifically tell Luo Qingtong about the division of spirit printer masters above advanced rune masters, Luo Qingtong knew that Luo Qingtong was a spirit printer master. However, Luo Qingtong understood the meaning of its words. Spirit print masters were divided into 3 realms, heaven, earth, and mortal, just like the 3 realms of martial artists. In that case, this Master Chen's true inscription ability was probably above many spirit print masters. If Luo Qingtong were to fight against him, even with her eye technique analysis, she would not be his opponent. After all, the other party's inscription comprehension and experience were extremely powerful. But Luo Qingtong didn't have any experience as a spirit print master. This was the most fatal. Without experience, she might not be able to win against her opponent in terms of the conversion of the power of the inscription tower. If the other party's inscription pattern and power were stronger than hers, then it would be troublesome. But now, Luo Qingtong chuckled as she watched Master Chen prepare for the final attack. It was obvious that after a series of probing, the other party had made up his mind to stake it all on one throw. Chapter 23-27. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and dispersed the power of the inscription pagoda in her hand. She calmly watched as Master Chen prepared for his final attack. Boom! Master Chen had gathered all the power of the inscription pagoda that he could mobilize in his attack. The pressure of the inscription pagoda that he had just endured was all converted into the inscription patterns that surrounded his body. At the same time, all the power in his body was poured into the inscription patterns around him. With a boom, he blasted towards the entrance of the 7th floor. Bang! His power landed heavily on the entrance of the 7th floor, but it did not weaken the light of the entrance of the 7th floor as he had imagined. On the contrary, without Luo Qingtong's attack to help target the weakness, the light of the entrance of the 7th floor was dozens of times stronger than Master Chen's previous attack. Pfft! Before Master Chen could react, he was sent flying by the rebounding force. His body was sent flying high into the air and smashed backward like a kite with a broken string. Along the way, the wind that his body cut through whistled like a ghost. Not only that, but he also spat out a large mouthful of blood. The skin all over his body burst open with numerous small wounds, and a large amount of blood spurted out. It was obvious that he was severely injured by the rebounding light of the entrance of the 7th floor. When Master Chen was sent flying, he was completely dumbfounded. He could not understand how the entrance of the 7th floor, which had become smoother and more shaken under his bombardment, had suddenly recovered its previous toughness and strength. The result of his attack should not be like this. Just as he was in a daze and did not know what was going on, he spat out blood and retreated. Luo Qingtong made her move. She had lured Master Chen step by step to use an even stronger force to bombard the light of the entrance of the 7th floor. It was all for this moment. The power of the inscription pagoda around him had been exhausted, and he had also inscribed countless inscription patterns in an instant. He had not been able to recover for the time being. In her eyes, Master Chen was even weaker than an ordinary spirit print master. Boom! A huge inscription pattern appeared around Luo Qingtong. This time, she didn't use the spirit restriction inscription from before. After all, that kind of inscription pattern was only useful for inscriptionists below the level of spirit print master. Since they were both spirit seal masters, they had their own ways to deal with it. Not to mention that Master Chen was a heavenly level spirit seal master. If Luo Qingtong had the thought of restraining his inscription pattern ability and keeping him here to torture him, she would be the unlucky one in the end. After all, she only had one chance to attack Master Chen in this one moment. Once he missed it, he would immediately be able to redirect the pressure within the inscription pagoda. At the same time, he would utilize his own comprehension of inscription patterns to draw inscription patterns around him one after another. It was sufficient to cancel out Luo Qingtong's attack. After all, Luo Qingtong's inscription comprehension was only at the level of a spirit print master. Therefore, Luo Qingtong chose to copy the inscription pattern that Master Chen had used just now. The inscription patterns that Master Chen had drawn in order to break through the entrance of the 7th floor covered all the levels of spirit print masters. He had used all the inscription patterns that could be drawn from the level of a spirit print master to the level of a heavenly level spirit print master. There was no room for negotiation. Chapter 23-28. You? When Master Chen saw Luo Qingtong rush out, he was shocked, angry, and disdainful. He was shocked and angry that Luo Qingtong could appear on the 6th floor of the inscription tower. He was disdainful that the other party overestimated herself and wanted to make a move on him. Even if he would be injured by the light of the entrance to the 7th floor. His inscription skills weren't something that a fledgling brat could hurt. So what if the other party could enter the 6th floor? She was probably the same as the Tian Feng inscription city lord, who was just close to the strength of a spirit seal master. With such an inscription comprehension ability, even if he didn't have any strength and took her attack head-on, it would only worsen his injuries a little. When he recovered, he would let the other party know the price of provoking him. Killing geniuses was also one of his favorite things to do. With that thought in mind, Master Chen cracked a sinister smile. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a vicious and cold gaze. However, soon, his gaze changed. He was shocked and aghast. How is this possible? He looked at the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong blasted out in disbelief. The aura on it was his own. It was exactly the same as the inscription pattern that he blasted out. How did the other party do it? When he saw the inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong blasted out, Master Chen understood why the light at the entrance to the 7th floor had been shaken. You did it? He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. It turned out that the other party had been scheming against him from the beginning. But how did she do it? She copied the aura of his inscription pattern. No wonder he didn't notice it at all. Master Chen was shocked and furious to the extreme. He watched as the inscription pattern that carried his aura and power blasted towards him, but he couldn't resist it, and it was too late to dodge. He had no choice but to grit his teeth. In an instant, a huge light inscription pattern flew out from his body. Natal inscription mark. Every spirit print master would condense an inscription pattern when he or she was promoted to a higher level. This inscription pattern maintained the inscription master's comprehension and usage of the inscription technique. Once the life inscription mark was destroyed, that inscription master would be crippled as a martial artist. He had a belly full of comprehension of inscriptions, but he had no way to use them. The Heavenly Wind inscription city lord from before had his life inscription mark destroyed. Even if his inscription comprehension was still there, he couldn't use it anymore. However, Master Chen's last request was to make him unable to touch and teach the last bit of knowledge about inscriptions. In this life, he was completely cut off from the inscription pattern technique. That was why Song Cheng and the others were so agitated and indignant. At the same time, Master Chen summoned his life inscription mark. With a loud boom, the life inscription mark clashed with Luo Qingtong's inscription mark. Ka ka ka. A series of cracking sounds came, and the natal inscription mark summoned by Master Chen instantly cracked. Bastard. Xie Qi, you deserve to die. Master Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The life inscription mark was extremely fragile. Ordinary spirit print masters would keep it in their bodies and wouldn't release it easily. After all, once the life inscription mark was broken, he would be crippled. However, at this moment, under the attack of Luo Qingtong's inscription mark, his life inscription mark was severely injured. Chapter 23-29. Brat, how dare you! Master Chen's anger had reached its peak. His killing intent towards Luo Qingtong was blazing. Boom! The aura of the inscriptions around his body erupted at this moment. He had taken advantage of the moment when his inscription mark blocked Luo Qingtong's attack to condense and transform a new aura of the inscription tower. Bang! The inscription pattern condensed around his body instantly blasted towards Luo Qingtong. However, compared to the inscription pattern he had condensed before, the aura of the inscription pattern was much weaker. Firstly, he had hurriedly transformed the aura of the inscription tower, so there wasn't much of it. Secondly, the inscription mark in his body had been damaged, so the inscription power he could unleash in this place had plummeted. From a heaven-level spirit print master, his strength had dropped to the level of a human-level spirit print master. Even if he had a heaven-level spirit print master's inscription comprehension, he wouldn't be able to unleash it. After all, unless he wanted to completely shatter the inscription mark in his body, he wouldn't be able to unleash an inscription power that exceeded what his inscription mark could bear. Otherwise, there was no need for Luo Qingtong to make a move, and he would become a cripple himself. With that thought in mind, Master Chen was enraged. Ordinary spirit print masters wouldn't be forced to such a state. Even if spirit print masters of the same level fought, they wouldn't hurt their own inscription mark. However, he was in the inscription tower, and he had met such a weirdo like Luo Qingtong. Not only did she scheme to make him lose all his power, she even copied and used the power of his inscription pattern. Unless Master Chen wanted to be blown out of the inscription tower by Luo Qingtong's attack, he could only use his inscription mark to fight. Bastard! Master Chen's anger had reached its peak. He looked at the youth holding a fan in front of him, and the coldness and killing intent in his eyes were unusually cold. The other party's background was strange, and his ability was powerful. He was definitely not ordinary. You are not from the Tianfeng inscription city. His tone was cold as he said with certainty. You are also here for that thing inside? As Master Chen spoke, the killing intent in his heart burned even more fiercely. What Song Chang's disciple? What Xie Qi? That was just a cover for the other party. The other party was definitely here for the items in the inscription tower. His goal was the same as his. Otherwise, Master Chen couldn't understand why Luo Qingtong, with her strength and ability, would be willing to stand up for the people of Heavenly Wind Inscription City and even consider herself as Song Chang's disciple. However, he did not expect that Luo Qingtong was really Song Chang's disciple. And the thing he was talking about, Luo Qingtong didn't even know about it. However, even if she told him the truth, he wouldn't believe her, right? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She glanced at the entrance to the 7th floor. That thing. Could it be related to the faintly discernible attractive force that she had been feeling since she entered the tower? Luo Qingtong thought to herself as she raised her hand to block Master Chen's attack. The latter's inscription strength had plummeted, and even though he had the comprehension of a heaven-level spirit seal master, he couldn't use it. It wasn't that difficult for Luo Qingtong to deal with it. When Luo Qingtong raised her hand to block the inscription pattern, Master Chen's heart became even more furious. Even a small youth was able to block his inscription pattern. How could he, a heaven-level spirit seal master, put his face there? Furthermore, the other party was obviously here for that thing. Luo Qingtong's previous silence was taken as tacit agreement by him. Chapter 23:30. Boom! The power of the inscription patterns around him instantly withdrew and released. In an instant, a huge inscription pattern that emitted a fierce aura appeared in front of him. Along with the appearance of this huge and fierce inscription pattern, the surrounding air was also distorted. Streaks of silver sword light appeared in the air and vaguely circled around the huge inscription pattern. Million sword illustration. Battle inscription pattern. The so-called battle inscription pattern was the same as the martial arts of martial artists. It was an inscription pattern that inscription masters could use to attack directly. To inscribe this kind of inscription pattern, the inscription master had to be a spirit seal master as well as an expert above the human martial realm. However, there were very few inscription masters in this world. Those who could cultivate both inscription patterns and martial arts at the same time were even fewer. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. But now, this Master Chen had directly inscribed a battle inscription pattern. In an instant, the aura of the inscription pattern in his hand surged. Compared to ordinary inscription patterns, the battle inscription pattern had an increase in attack power and aura. When a spirit seal master who cultivated both martial arts and inscription patterns used the battle inscription pattern, he could completely fight against a spirit seal master of a higher level. This kind of spirit seal master was called a battle spirit master among the inscription masters. Even if he was one level lower than other spirit seal masters, the power of the inscription pattern he could use through the battle inscription pattern was enough to fight against the opponent. He could directly crush martial artists and spirit seal masters of the same level. When this Master Chen used the battle inscription pattern in his hand, Luo Qingtong immediately felt threatened. This is the battle inscription pattern? Luo Qingtong carefully sensed the power and aura of this battle inscription mark. She found that it allowed Master Chen, who was only able to use the power of a mortal-level spirit print master, to increase his power by another level. Battle Spirit Master. Seeing this scene, Little Pig, who was sitting obediently on Luo Qingtong's shoulder, stood up immediately. This Master Chen is actually a battle spirit master. Damn! This kind of spirit seal master, and a heaven-level spirit seal master, can completely crush most of the spirit seal masters in this world. His identity is definitely not simple. Oh my god, what on earth is on the 7th floor that attracted him here? Little Pig said as he looked at the entrance of the 7th floor not far away. To be able to make a heaven-level spirit seal master and an expert above the human martial stage come here, the item on the 7th floor must be incredible. At the same time, he hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong, Master, don't fight with him again. Battle inscription pattern is the most powerful inscription pattern. The other inscription patterns, even if their aura is stronger than this one, will be disintegrated when they meet it. I didn't expect Master Chen to have such a trump card. Let's get out of here. The other party's battle inscription pattern had its own buff, and it had an advantage against other inscription patterns. Of battle, unless she could also use the battle inscription pattern. However, Luo Qingtong was not a human martial realm expert, so it was impossible for her to inscribe the battle inscription pattern. Chapter 23:31. She didn't expect Master Chen to be a battle spiritualist. As expected, none of these old foxes were easy to deal with. She had lured Master Chen into thinking that the entrance to the 7th floor could be shaken. He actually hid his strength in the last attack. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked in the direction of Master Chen and said to Little Pig calmly, It's too late. He won't let me go. Her strength and ability had been exposed in front of him, and she had even fought with him. If she was Master Chen, she would definitely choose to eliminate the source of trouble. Now that she was in the inscription tower, she could still resist him by relying on the power of the inscription tower. But if she left the inscription tower, she wouldn't be a match for him with his strength and identity. Therefore, she couldn't leave. Not only could she not leave, but she also had to help the people of Tianfeng Inscription City seize the inscription tower. As long as the inscription tower was in Tianfeng Inscription City, she would have the confidence to deal with him. While Luo Qingtong and Little Pig were talking, the battle inscription pattern in Master Chen's hand was completely formed. The power of the inscription tower on the 6th floor was rapidly stirring. The silver sword light around the battle inscription pattern had already revealed itself, revealing an incomparably sharp cold light. Turning void into reality. Using the power of inscription patterns to transform into sword light combat power. Inscriptionists had battle inscription patterns as support, and thousands of offensive techniques could be used casually. It could increase one's offensive power and combat power to an unimaginable degree. If inscriptionists were considered as support skills, then battle spiritualists were like soul masters and beast tamers, a unique combat profession. Boom! As the silver sword light completely appeared, it instantly swept towards Luo Qingtong like a dragon. They were enhanced by the inscription pattern. No matter if it was speed, attack, or accuracy, they were all incomparable to ordinary martial artists' combat skills. This attack was like countless mortal martial realm experts attacking Luo Qingtong. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Bang, bang, bang. She raised her hand and waved out inscription patterns. At that instant, her blood eye technique was fully unleashed. The trajectories of these silver sword lights were captured by her. Countless amounts of pressure from the inscription tower were transformed into streams of energy under her control, and they were injected into the inscription patterns she was inscribing. At this moment, the ability to comprehend inscriptions that Luo Qingtong revealed was shocking. If it weren't for the limitation of strength and power, she would have been promoted to a human-level spiritual print master long ago. But at this moment, in the inscription tower, her ability to comprehend inscriptions was displayed to the extreme. She wasn't a mortal rank spirit print master, but she was better than one. Even so, she was still no match for Master Chen. Just like what Little Pig said, this combat inscription pattern had an overwhelming advantage over ordinary inscription patterns. The moment Luo Qingtong's inscription patterns came into contact with the sword lights, they were all shattered into pieces. And those silver sword lights, under the support of the combat inscription patterns, were continuously formed. There was no limit to them. As long as the combat inscription patterns were not broken, these silver sword lights would be formed according to Master Chen's will and power. This was the terrifying part of the combat inscription patterns. It had no limit at all. As long as a battle spiritualist had enough power, it could continue to attack. And in this inscription tower, how could Master Chen's power be exhausted? Chapter 23-32. Master. Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. This Master Chen was actually a battle spirit master. In this inscription tower, battle spirit masters were like bugs. Such a person would not need the help of the inscription tower and would not appear in the inscription tower again. Or perhaps, even if he did appear, he wouldn't appear in the inscription tower and inscription city that was 1-star region below. Because this place was no longer suitable for them to cultivate. However, Master Chen appeared here and seemed to be after something on the 7th floor of the inscription tower. What was there in the inscription tower in a 6-star region that was worth fighting over? Little Pig became anxious as he thought about it. Luo Qingtong watched the sword light shatter all the inscription patterns around her, but she wasn't in a hurry. Swish. Swish. She condensed inscription patterns around her and rushed toward the sword lights of the battle inscriptions again. That's right, Luo Qingtong's eye technique allowed her to instantly see through the weak points contained within the pressure of the inscription pagoda and quickly break through them. Although the battle inscriptions she had created weren't as powerful as Master Chen's, they were much more powerful. However, with her eye sorcery, the speed at which she dissolved and controlled the power of the inscription pagoda wasn't any slower than Master Chen's. In fact, it was even faster than that. Therefore, with the endless supply of energy from the inscription tower, Luo Qingtong could completely win with quantity and negate the attacks from the battle inscription marks. Those battle inscription sword lights could break through the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong's body, but soon, another layer of inscription patterns would form around Luo Qingtong's body, preventing those sword lights from advancing any further. Boom boom boom. The sword lights of battle inscriptions clashed fiercely with the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong. Every time, a large part of the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong would break. Then, a large area of inscription patterns would quickly fill in. Luo Qingtong's eye technique, copy, allowed her to not be like other inscription masters. She didn't need to use her inscription talent to redraw the inscription pattern. Instead, she could copy it directly. This would save her a lot of time and allow her to form countless inscription patterns around her body, just like Master Chen. These inscription patterns completely blocked the attacks of the battle inscriptions. However, this alone was not enough. This was because Luo Qingtong's eye technique was limited, but Master Chen's inscriptions were limitless. If this continued, the unlucky one would be Luo Qingtong. He had to find a way to deal with Master Chen. However, what could possibly hurt Master Chen on the 6th floor? Luo Qingtong had already experienced the power of the light at the entrance of the 7th level and had severely injured Master Chen. It was impossible for him to make the same mistake again. Even if she tried to seduce him, it would be useless. However, if he didn't use the light at the entrance of the 7th level, what else could hurt him? He couldn't possibly let Luo Qingtong rush into the light at the entrance of the 7th level by herself. However, Luo Qingtong had already checked the light at the entrance of the 7th level. She couldn't see through it at all. If she was unable to enter the 7th floor, then she would be severely injured by the opponent's rays of light. At that time, she would either be taken advantage of by Master Chen or be blasted out of the inscription tower. When the people of Langyu Inscription City obtained the inscription tower, she still wouldn't be able to escape Master Chen's pursuit. Chapter 23-33. While Luo Qingtong was pondering in her mind. On the 5th floor. Linyu City Lord, who was fighting with Song Cheng, heard the commotion on the 6th floor and instantly laughed out loud. Haha. Song Cheng, you're finished. I don't care where you found this expert from. But it's obvious that she's not a match for Master Chen. You people from Tianfeng Inscription City, just wait for your misfortune. Linyu City Lord's face was extremely ferocious. When Luo Qingtong left, he thought that there was an opportunity. After all, no matter how Song Cheng was able to obtain his current inscription talent, he shouldn't be a match for him who had been immersed in this path for so many years. However, he didn't expect that what Song Cheng obtained was the sharing of Luo Qingtong's inscription talent. He knew everything that Luo Qingtong knew. Although he wasn't as experienced as Linyu City Lord, he couldn't stop Luo Qingtong's inscription talent. Previously, he had cultivated many inscription patterns in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. In addition, Song Cheng's own theoretical knowledge was solid. In this battle, Linyu City Lord was instantly at a disadvantage. Only now did he know how Song Cheng could make such big words in front of Luo Qingtong and let the youth go first. He would deal with him alone. And how could Luo Qingtong directly rush into the 6th floor without any scruples? It turned out that Song Cheng's inscription talent was enough to deal with him. He was angry and angry in his heart. Only when he heard the commotion on the 6th floor did he regain some confidence. This commotion must be caused by that Master Chen. After all, how old was that youth named Xie Qi? How could he be a match for Master Chen? Moreover, Master Chen's origin was mysterious. Linyu City Lord had suspected several times that his strength might be above an ordinary spirit print master. Now, he was completely sure of this point. Linyu City Lord's face was proud and ferocious. However, Song Cheng's heart suddenly trembled. He shared his inscription talent with Luo Qingtong and could faintly sense her situation. At this time, Luo Qingtong was indeed focusing on defense and did not take the initiative to attack. Could it be that what City Lord Linyu said was true? She was no match for that Master Chen? Thinking of this, Song Cheng's heart instantly became anxious. Seeing the City Lord Linyu's confidence in Master Chen, he guessed that the other party's strength was not as simple as just becoming a spirit print master. He was probably even stronger than the average spirit print master. If something happened to Luo Qingtong, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. As he thought about it, he used all his strength to attack Linyu City Lord. At the same time, he used another inscription pattern to attack the high-level inscription masters of Linyu City whose inscription ability was sealed by Luo Qingtong. Bang bang bang. A group of high-level inscription masters of Linyu City lay on the ground, unable to fight back at all. When they were attacked by Song Cheng's inscription pattern, they all spat out blood and rushed in the direction of Linyu City Lord. So many experts all rushed towards Linyu Inscription City Lord, instantly blocking his path in all directions. Originally, Cold Jade City Lord wanted to avoid Kai Song City's attack. However, his front, back, left, and right were all blocked, making it impossible for him to dodge. Chapter 2334. Originally, the power of Song Cheng's inscription pattern attack was not inferior to his. With this block, he instantly vomited blood and retreated backwards. The bodies of the high-level inscriptionists of Cold Jade Inscription City all smashed into his body, causing him to once again rush backwards, and in an instant, he flew out tens of meters away. At this moment, Song Cheng's inscription pattern attack arrived again. Get out of here. Who are you to mock and despise my disciple? Song Cheng's inscription pattern once again smashed onto his body, instantly causing him to be heavily injured. His body was sent out of the inscription tower. Trash. Imitating Luo Qingtong's previous gesture, Song Cheng pointed his thumb downwards and gave Linyu City Lord and the others a look of disdain as they disappeared from the inscription tower. You can't even defeat me, an inscription trash, and you still have the nerve to say that you are my disciple. Song Cheng's eyes were cold. After kicking Linyu City Lord and the others out of the inscription tower, he rushed towards the 6th floor. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried that something would happen to Luo Qingtong, he wouldn't have let Lengyu City Lord and the others off so easily. He would have tortured them properly before kicking them out of the inscription tower. However, at this moment, he was worried about Luo Qingtong and couldn't care so much. "Disciple, wait for me. I'm coming." Song Qing mustered all his strength and rushed towards the 6th floor. However, although his inscription talent was inherited from Luo Qingtong, there were still some differences between him and the young girl. For example, although Luo Qingtong's inscription talent was strong, she also had the enhancement of her eye technique. That was why she could easily enter the 6th floor. After all, the 6th floor was the category of spirit print masters. As for Luo Qingtong, although her inscription comprehension had barely reached this level, if it wasn't for the enhancement of her eye technique, she wouldn't be able to walk so casually in the 6th floor's oppressive aura. Therefore, as soon as Song Qing rushed to the entrance of the 6th floor, he felt an incomparably tyrannical aura rush out from the entrance of the 6th floor. In an instant, his figure that had just stepped into the entrance of the 6th floor was forced back by this extremely tyrannical pressure by nearly 10 meters. He was almost ejected out of the entrance. "No, disciple. My disciple is still inside." Song Cheng's heart was burning with anxiety. After he had rushed into the 6th level, he had sensed two forces fighting fiercely in the depths of the 6th level. The most tyrannical one was clearly not Luo Qingtong's aura. She was indeed in danger. Master Chen was no ordinary spirit print master. Song Qing absolutely believed in Luo Qingtong's talent. However, no matter how talented Luo Qingtong was, she had only practiced inscription technique for a few years, and most of the time, she was self-taught. If Master Chen's inscription skills were beyond the level of a spirit print master, Luo Qingtong would be in danger. As Song Qing thought about it, the veins on his forehead suddenly popped out. In the next second, he took a huge step forward. He forcibly withstood the oppressive aura of the 6th floor and moved forward step by step. Every step he took forward left a bloody mark under his feet. That was the result of the oppressive aura of the 6th floor being too strong, and he forcibly withstood it. At this moment, he was unable to transform the oppressive aura like Luo Qingtong. Boom boom boom. Chapter 23:35. Using the power of her eye technique, Luo Qingtong copied countless inscription patterns. At the same time, she moved around, not allowing the battle inscription sword light controlled by Master Chen to have a chance to get close to her body. Once she was hit by those battle inscription sword lights, all of her defenses and resistance would immediately collapse. At that time, she could only be blasted out of the inscription tower by those battle inscription sword lights. However, she didn't expect that those battle inscription sword lights could actually accumulate and increase their strength. Master Chen was shocked when he saw that the inscription patterns around her seemed to be endless and were constantly being condensed. His opponent's inscription talent had already exceeded his imagination. Any mortal level spirit seal master wouldn't be able to do it to Luo Qingtong's level. The speed at which she condensed inscription patterns was already comparable to a heaven-level spirit seal master. The speed at which she converted the power of the inscription tower was also incomparably fast. How did she do it? She was simply a monster, a monster. Master Chen was shocked and aghast. Then, he quickly changed his strategy. Every time he attacked, he would deliberately leave a part of the sword light power. Now, this part of the sword light power had become extremely thick and tyrannical in the process of superimposing again and again. At this moment, the inscription patterns around Luo Qingtong's body were once again shattered by the battle inscription sword light that he blasted out. This part of the tyrannical and thick sword light power blasted towards Luo Qingtong. He didn't believe that the inscription patterns around her body could block it again. "Xia Qi, get out of here." After blasting the youth out of the inscription tower and obtaining the ownership of this inscription tower, he immediately eliminated the root of the problem. He had to completely kill the other party in this Tianfeng inscription city, so as to avoid leaving behind a disaster. Looking at the thick sword light that Master Chen blasted out, Luo Qingtong's eyes were slightly cold. The light in her left hand flickered slightly. It was not the time yet. If she were to forcefully attack now, she was afraid. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind her. Left in front, it's right in front of you. Disciple. The battle inscription mark of the human martial realm is in the pillar you saw. Song Qing appeared not far behind Luo Qingtong. His entire body was covered in blood. When he saw that Luo Qingtong was in danger, he immediately shouted. As he spoke, Luo Qingtong's gaze followed his words and landed on a pillar to her left. Strangely enough, this pillar had been standing there for a long time. However, during the battle between Luo Qingtong and Master Chen, they inadvertently neglected it again and again. At this moment, under Song Cheng's guidance, Luo Qingtong discovered the uniqueness of this pillar. Compared to the other pillars, this pillar was clearly branded with lines of inscription patterns. The entire pillar seemed to be surrounded by inscription lines. Under the cover of these inscription patterns, there was clearly an inscription pattern that had already been engraved on the pillar. The battle inscription of the peak human martial realm. The reward that Song Cheng had told her before, the one that was placed in the inscription tower by the experts of the Central Inscription Association. So it was here. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up slightly and she directly rushed towards the inscription pillar. Seeing her actions, Master Chen sneered. Ridiculous, that battle inscription mark of the human martial realm is something that you can easily use? Chapter 23:36. As Master Chen spoke, his heart was filled with disdain. His opponent's talent was indeed extraordinary. However, he probably didn't know how difficult it was to learn the battle inscription patterns. Not every inscription master who had advanced to the human martial arts realm could immediately learn the battle inscription patterns. The rarity and preciousness of a battle spirit master was beyond everyone's imagination. This Xie Qi thought too simply of the matter. And that's Song Cheng. Master Chen glanced at Song Cheng, who had appeared on the 6th floor. Although his body was covered in blood, the fact that he could appear on the 6th floor meant that his talent was amazing. However, wasn't he the useless inscription master from Tianfeng Inscription City? How could he break through all the way to the 6th floor? This was simply unimaginable. After this matter was over and the inscription tower was in his hands, he would definitely capture him and interrogate him to see how he did it. Once this method was in his hands, it wouldn't be inferior to the things on the 7th floor. As he thought about it, Master Chen's eyes were filled with greed. After Luo Qingtong's body was covered in layers of inscription patterns, she rushed towards the inscription pattern pillar. Boom! Her hand directly pressed on the inscription pattern pillar. Before Master Chen could react, the battle inscription patterns on the inscription pattern pillar instantly flew up. Master Chen was wrong. Luo Qingtong didn't need to slowly master and learn the battle inscription patterns. She only needed to adjust the aura and power of her own inscription patterns and turn it into the aura and power of the battle inscription patterns left behind in the inscription pattern pillar. Then, she would be able to drive the battle inscription patterns on the pillar. This was an impossible feat for others. However, Luo Qingtong had the eye technique analysis and the innate mixed yuan body. She could imitate anyone's aura and power in her own body. Boom! As Luo Qingtong's attack blasted out. In an instant, the battle inscription sword light that Master Chen blasted out was blocked by Luo Qingtong's battle inscription pattern. Battle inscription pattern versus battle inscription pattern. Roar! As Luo Qingtong blasted the energy into the inscription pattern pillar, the battle inscription pattern appeared in mid-air and started to spin rapidly. Then, one after another, the phantoms of demonic beasts appeared in mid-air. The battle inscription pattern on the 6th level had transformed into a beast. Roar! As if it had its own summoning array, the demonic beasts that jumped out of the battle inscription pattern turned from illusory to corporeal. Then, all of them raised their heads and roared loudly as they charged towards the sword lights. Boom boom boom. The sword light clashed with the demonic beast. The human martial arts realm collided with the peak of the human martial arts realm. In an instant, Master Chen was blasted away by the collision of the two battle inscriptions and spat out a mouthful of blood. Originally, he would not have lost so miserably. But who asked him to be lured by Luo Qingtong to attack the light at the entrance of the 7th floor, which resulted in him being seriously injured? His strength had dropped to the human level. Now, the battle inscription pattern that Luo Qingtong used at the peak of the human martial arts realm was left behind by the powerhouse of the Central Inscription Association. Even if it had the same power as his battle inscription pattern, with Master Chen's current injuries, he would not be able to defeat this battle inscription pattern. Immediately, he vomited blood and flew out. Seeing that his body was about to be sent out of the inscription tower, Master Chen was extremely unwilling. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.